Today we're diving deep into the Long Dark's lower Iceberg. With each level we descend, the more unknown or obscure the entries will become. It has everything from character basics to, UFOs? Damn! Anyway, grab a snack and get comfy as I get down to the bottom of the darkest lore the Long Dark has to offer. As we enter the surface level, I would like to thank the Redditor Impression for putting this together, and to all the nuts in our Discord community, link below, who came up with all of the green entries. Also, this will contain possible spoilers if you have not played Wintermute yet, so you have been warned. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Martin Baker refers to Grandmother's ex-husband, who is the corpse you find in the Paradise Meadows farm outbuilding in Wintermute Episode 1. You will come across the wolf eating his remains when Grandmother gets you to retrieve a key for a lockbox in the Milton Bank. The lockbox contains their late daughter Lilith's pearl necklace that Grandmother wanted to bury alongside her. However, Martin wanted them kept safe as something to remember her by. Thus, why they are separated and the pearls locked away in the Milton Credit Union. Perseverance Mills is the town in which Astrid is trying to reach in Wintermute. The town is said to be north of Pleasant Valley, but would take days to get there on foot. Astrid was able to squeeze through the collapsed tunnel exit in Milton in episode 1, leaving a clue for Will written in blood on the prison transport bus. The town has an illness outbreak of some sort and is under quarantine. This is the reason Dr. Astrid Greenwood was heading there with her locked hard case, with what episode 4 has confirmed to be the cure. Perseverance Mills is mentioned several times throughout the 4 episodes thus far, and at the end of episode 4, Astrid is found drifting into the docks and retrieved by 2 strangers. Hopefully this means that episode 5 will mostly or at least partly be played in the unexplored Perseverance Mills itself. The Forest Talkers are a group of vigilante eco-activists, with several side quests in episodes 2 to 4. Some would call them eco-terrorists, as their methods of activism are mostly destructive in nature and aim at disrupting the deforestation industry of Great Bear Island. In the episode 2 side quest, Lake Gunshots, Will must help an injured member by retrieving Forest Talker documents and supplies. While the member is never seen, he can be interacted with through a cabin door. This is the only time you interact directly with any of the Forest Talkers.
Leave me alone. I'm not opening a store for anyone.
The first flare is the Aurora event seen at the beginning of episode 1 of Wintermute. This event is the cause of the lack of power, more than normal hostile wildlife, and unusual weather patterns throughout Great Bear Island. The collapse is mentioned throughout the episodes and refers to the economic state of Great Bear Island. This was before the events of the first flare. This is likely associated as a result of the 2008 housing market collapse. Great Bear Island was mostly cut off from the mainland, where the inhabitants were left to become more self-sufficient. There are 4 collectibles that can be found throughout episode 1 and 2 of Wintermute. These can be found in the Orca gas station, Milton Park office, the hunting lodge, and the Lone Lake cabin in Mystery Lake. Donna refers to the unseen son of Blackrock prisoner Mathis. In episode 4, Will learns that he is in the solitary confinement wing of Blackrock Penitentiary. Mathis tasks Will with retrieving explosives to blow the cell doors off. However, an unintentional explosion caused by Will, Jace, and the convicts set Donner free, injuring him in the process. During the intro of Wintermute, the player will learn about the failed marriage between Will and Astrid through various cutscene dialogue. This is likely due to the mention of the untimely death of their child. Although they don't go into great detail, there is a shattered photo of the child shown during this interaction. This refers to discussions over on the Long Dark subreddit where some theorize that Methuselah is actually Will from the future. This is because of his similar appearance and knowledge of Will's actions after dealing with Hobbs in episode 1. The theory states that perhaps Will is stuck in a time loop after the events of the first flare, or that Methuselah is a form of Will's subconscious. Whichever it is, the devs seem to have left it up for interpretation. Fluffy is the name that YouTuber iHasCupquake unintentionally gave to the wolf that used to live in the Carter Hydro Dam in the Mystery Lake region. However, Fluffy was removed from the dam in a later update, but then moved to the Bleak Inlet Cannery when it was introduced, and has remained there ever since. There are several other wolves that can startle the player when entering a couple other various indoor cave areas, each having a unique dog name, like Scruffy, Sketchy, and Frosty. The disease in question is the unknown illness that has caused Perseverance Mills to implement quarantine measures. This is the very same that Astrid is attempting to aid with. The mass grave is mentioned in episode 3 by Father Tom. It resides directly under the Thompson's Crossing Community Center after the passenger plane crash in the hills of Pleasant Valley. Just as the loading screen says, the Aurora can bring old computers back to life, restoring old data left in their memory banks. These artifacts provide a glimpse of Great Bear Island before the lights went out. Each computer can have 3 to 5 different memories you can collect during an Aurora. Only one will show up per night though. These play the main role in the in-game challenge Archivist, whereas the player must go to specific locations and obtain buffer memories during an Aurora event. The mysterious signal fire can be found in one of 2 spawn locations in Hushed River Valley. Beside it, you will find a snow shelter, a burnt out campfire, and some useful clothing and tools. This fire could indicate the existence of another survivor in survival mode. However, no one alive has ever been found in the area. There are plenty of unused or cut voice lines in the Long Dark, including Wintermute spoilers and some that will trigger during specific survival events. A lot of these are hidden deep in the game code, but here's some that I found on Reddit, and if you'd like to hear more variations of this, check the link in the description below after the video.
Looks like he's been frozen for a while. Poor American. Diarrhea. Diarrhea. Some people think it's funny, but it's really brown and runny. Diarrhea.
There are 2 diary notes that can be found in Ash Canyon regarding the gold mine. These hint at some sort of accident happening after they allegedly delved too greedily and too deep. Some Redditors believe they accidentally opened up a gas pocket and subsequently ignited the gas with their lanterns. This is speculated to be the reason why most of the region's forests have been scorched by a blaze. Whether it was gas or a Balrog, no one seems to have lived to tell the tale. If you play on Stalker or below difficulties, you will most likely come across plenty of Stacy's Grape soda. This soda is named after YouTube Let's Player Stacy Plays. This is after she made a comment about her favorite soda during an early playthrough of The Long Dark. Sutherland, also known as the Trader, is the only other known survivor in survival mode. He sails off the coast of Coastal Highway and can only be interacted with over shortwave radio during an Aurora event. The player can trade locally found items like wood and car batteries in return for rare items or recipe cards to make better gear or food. Although you can't reach him until a predetermined amount of time passes in survival mode, there is a dedicated questline you can access from him. Sutherland provides a way for long-term survivalists to keep their runs going, after they've already collected every rosehip and reishi mushroom in every region. Jeremiah explained the legend in episode 2 after Will was able to retrieve medicine for him. He states that the bear can't be killed by any bullets, only by a spear at the Spence family homestead. This alludes some to believe that the bear is a 200-year-old entity demon. This would definitely explain how it shows up out of nowhere at times. While OP has said that this entry refers to the amount of graves from 1919, I had no luck finding any evidence of this whatsoever. But there were several graves that were from young adults or teens from the 80s. With our knowledge of Great Bear's seismic activity, this could be indicative of a mining collapse, but others on Reddit have speculated that these individuals could have taken their own lives. But without more evidence, this mystery may remain unsolved. Okay, so there's this video where this guy has a car in the Long Dark and he's drifting on the ice in Mystery Lake. It's pretty cool. Look, it's pretty sick. Look at that. That's dope as hell. Okay, on to the next one. The Suzuki Radio Telescope is an old government facility located near Perseverance Mills. In episode 4, it is mentioned by Jace that they may be unaffected by the first flare, but warns that Mathis and the other convicts may try to take over the facility and make it their home base. Perhaps we'll see more in episode 5. I'm throwing this one back to the Redditors, where they have discussed the impossibility to derive enough power from the small creek that runs into the dam. This has sparked theories that the dam might have been a cover-up by the government for something much more diabolical. What perhaps? Well, maybe our next entry. This is the idea that the storm was actually caused by the government, or humans in general, as some have reasoned that if there was a solar flare that would cause such a catastrophe, that we probably would have heard about it. However, a quick Google search will reveal that a large solar flare could reach Earth in 8 minutes, certainly not long enough to warn everyone on Earth, let alone a couple on a plane or on a remote island town. These animations were created by YouTuber Lear and look absolutely wonderful. While there may only be a couple, these would pair well with the newer harvesting animation Hinterland added not so long ago. At the end of episode 3, Astrid walks out into Coastal Highway, where she is shocked by the amount of killer whales beached on the ice. While it's never directly explained what had happened to them, we can assume from Astrid's "the world is changing" line to mean that this is the cause of the first flare and the direct events following it. This one is similar to the Methuselah and Will theory, where Astrid may be hallucinating Molly, as well as the phone calls she gets from her, which could be the reason why nobody else picks up on the party line during their calls. Or perhaps they do and they just don't say anything. Sean is mentioned in 3 separate notes across Great Bear Island. This is a part of the backer-contributed Notes Left Behind. These can be found in Quonset Garage in Coastal Highway, in a car in Crumbling Highway, and the Lonely Lighthouse in Desolation Point. All 3 of these notes were written by the exact same backer, number 644, so the ability to build a solid narrative is strong, and adds a nice little extra bit of flair to the world building. I'm not going to read them here, but I'll leave a link down below if you'd like to read them yourself. Apparently in an early build of the game, you could find and equip a shovel. Apparently the code is still embedded in the game files, but you can no longer access the shovel. While there isn't any use for it, one can only wonder what sort of mechanics could have been implemented into the game. Some have said that you can hear the souls of the dead miners in the Cinder Hills mine. It's faint, but some have said that they've also heard children or whispers in the dark. Could these things be hidden deep in the ambient sounds of the mines to trick you? This one is basically that Mackenzie missed the shot of the bear at the end of episode 1, and then dragged Jeremiah's corpse back to his cabin. Then after spending days with it in the cabin, he hallucinates talking to it. In this case, it's theorized that the stories and knowledge that Jeremiah shares with Will could just be Will's subconscious memories of his father telling him these stories as a kid, as when he was younger, he used to spend summers on the island with him. This one is also similar to Methuselah is Will from the future, but more that Will died in the plane wreck and is now serving an eternity in this frozen hell, while the characters he meets along the way are tests or allegories of the afterlife. Various cave dwellings and weird rock formations depicting monsters or graffiti can be found in several caves across Great Bear Island. While most of these are very low resolution and can be mistaken as a texture accident, or perhaps is it just a case of pareidolia? Yep, this one is 100% true. She's in fact a Skinwalker. Nah, I'm only kidding. So this one's basically that she managed to survive the convicts raid in the town while all the others were killed. Then she makes Will do her bidding with some dark magic. But unless I saw her run through the forest on all fours, I'm not sure I believe this one. After learning about the economic collapse of Great Bear Island, and with the loading screen confirming the scarcity of food, it's not unlikely that the prisoners of Blackrock would run out of food eventually. And with their animalistic tendencies as seen in the town of Milton, one could only reasonably assume that they would have resorted to cannibalism instead of facing starvation. Heck, maybe Donner's name is a reference to the Donner Party. Some players from Reddit and the TLD forums have claimed to have heard the Wendigo howling during the long dark nights on Great Bear Island, where a Wendigo is said to be someone who eats human flesh, and the idea of cannibals being present as stated earlier, who knows what's really out there in the dark. So this one was kind of a letdown, at first anyway. The original poster of the Iceberg admittedly threw this one in as a troll. However, some commenters have actually come up with some good theories around it. One of them noticed that there is far too many corpses in Hushed River Valley, despite the lack of any nearby shelters. They also state that it is the only place they have found a corpse with a knife in their back, and one with their legs chopped off, as you can see in this photo. While the year doesn't line up with the escaped convicts doing this, perhaps this was during the start of the recession, which would have created high tensions and could have led to someone killing other community members in order to obtain more resources. Whether they were led into Hushed River Valley to their death or simply disposed of there is up to debate. However, the bodies would have decomposed during the many summers on Great Bear Island, which is unlike the permanent winter weather climate that it is experiencing now. So all we can assume is that history may be repeating itself in that valley. And who knows, maybe the one who lit the mysterious signal fire is trying to stay away from you, fearing you may be the killer. The UFOs in question were seen by Redditor author S.A. Hunt. They write, I was walking up and down the road transporting my cash from the gas station to the car by the Commuter's Lament exit so I could move it to the lighthouse later. When my night timer got down to a couple hours of darkness left, I noticed the full moon looking all dark and creepy in the fog over the bay. So I stopped to look at it, and to my surprise, a collection of tiny lights flowered in the darkness just underneath. At first they were blood red, and the longer I watched, the brighter they got, until they were like a flashbang in the face, with that weird grid-like prismatic appearance. But when I moved or turned my head, they would vanish. I would stop walking and watch, and the lights would come back. Sometimes they were purple, sometimes they were red, sometimes pale green, but they would always turn white and get super bright. While the photos of the event are definitely strange, some point out that it could just be a bug or reflection onto the stars from the aurora. But what do you think? We've come to our last entry in this iceberg, and boy is it a doozy. Actually, it's not really, and I'm sorry for that. I've researched for so long about this one, and all I could find was a wolf half glitched into the ice. However, there is no proof of anybody being stuck under the ice, unless of course they are talking about the Lovecraftian horror himself.
In his cabin at Rehole frozen Cthulhu waits shivering, yet he shall thaw, and his kingdom shall uncover the earth.
And that does it for the Long Dark's lore iceberg. If something else should be added to the list, comment it down below. And if you have any other theories or info about any of these topics, I'd love to hear them. Anyway, thanks for joining, and here's another video you can watch.